every person who is charged with a criminal offense is entitled to defend himself in person or by a legal practitioner of his own choice.
Remember that an individual is entitled to remain silent.
Every citizen in Nigeria is entitled to maintain a private life.
You are approaching a military checkpoint or a police checkpoint without knowing that it's against or it offends them and subject you to a frog jump. That is wrong.
Hello, you are welcome to another episode of the program Justifying Nigeria on ACNN television, reaching you from Abuja. On today's episode, we are going to be discussing the legal essence of marriage. My name is Anozie Chinomso. Marriage is one of the most important institutions of the society. It regulates human relationships, family life, and civilization that defines man as the highest of the species in creation. A scholar defined marriage as a legal union of a man and a woman for life as husband and wife. However, a cleric defined marriage as a divine union made, formulated, and created by God between a man and a woman who has decided to become husband and wife for life to the exclusion of all others. Beyond all this, experience have demonstrated that a lot of people are merely enduring abusive and violent relationships, but because of social expectations and shame, they do not want to call it quits. In some cases, irreparable damage has been caused, forgetting that life is too precious to be so sacrificed. But where is the place of law in all this? Where and when could it be said that marriage is legitimate and legal? With me in the studio to discuss all this is Barrister Mrs. Faith Dikocha, Principal Partner, FC Dikocha and Associates. She's also human rights activist, Legal Officer, National Association of Proprietors of Private Schools, NAPS, in FCT and North Central Nigeria. It's also interesting to let you know that she's 15 years legally married. You're welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Well done. Thank you to have you again. Let me start by saying Happy New Year.
Thank you.
What is marriage? Let's start from there.
Okay.
Just what is marriage?
Okay, sir. You've already said it. If you ask me what marriage is, the general parlance of marriage, or let me say the Black's Law Dictionary, defined marriage as a legal union of a couple coming together to become husband and wife. Now, but when they say couple, of course, it has to do with even same-sex marriage. Okay, but in the Nigerian context, where we don't have anything to do with same-sex marriage, at least as at now, we would say marriage is a legal union of a man and a woman coming together to become husband and wife.
That's just what it is. Simple.
That's what it is.
That's what marriage is all about. But you just mentioned quick one of same-sex marriage. What is your view on that? Does that exist based on the context of laws?
No, Nigerian context does not admit it as at now. But the only thing that is constant in life is change. We might wake up tomorrow and hear that they have accepted it as part of our norm. But for now, it is not advisable, it is not permitted in the Nigerian context. But some parts of the world, they accept. That's why they said couple. But for Nigerian context, I will say man and woman coming together as husband and wife.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Please, at this point, can you tell us types of marriage? Do we have any? Are there types of marriage that we have?
Yeah, we do. We have a couple of them like that. Generally, we have the church marriage, we have the customary marriage, we have the Islamic marriage, we have the legal or statutory marriage. Okay. Now, but under our laws, we can actually classify them in two ambits.
Okay. One
is the statutory marriage, and the other is the customary marriage. This is where the Islamic marriage also falls in. Okay, so we can say there are two. Majorly, there are two of it. Okay. The legal marriage, which is the statutory marriage.
Okay.
Marriage under the Act.
Okay, that's marriage under the Act.
Under the Act, yes,
okay,
sir.
Just go straight to explain. What is marriage under the Act?
Okay, marriage under the Act, simply put, is marrying based on the requirements of the provisions of the Marriage Act. Okay. Going through the process of getting married based on the provisions of the Marriage Act. That is statutory marriage, marriage under the Act. Yes.
And it's recognized everywhere?
Everywhere in the world. Everywhere in the world is recognized.
Okay. There's another one you talked about. You talked about customary
The customary marriage. Yeah.
So what is that customary marriage
Okay,
about?
customary marriage, this is Africa, this is Nigeria. The customary marriage has to do with marrying based on the custom and traditions of your people. This is where the payment of bride price comes to play. When a bride price or bride price have been paid and the parties have agreed to marry first and foremost, and then the bride price is paid, marriage under the custom has been concluded. There are so many other things, different customs.
It's also valid. It's also valid. It's recognized by law.
Extremely valid.
No, but it's a
Very
tell
valid.
us. When somebody must have fulfilled the conditions of marriage in that of statutory marriage under the Act, and of course that of traditional marriage, let's put it that way, that's customary marriage. If the person refuses to go to church for white wedding or whatever, will that invalidate the marriage?
Not at all. Not at all. The only thing I know that is sacrosanct is when it has to do with legal marriage. You know, there are procedures when you're talking about marriage under the Act.
Yes.
There are procedures you take.
Can you give us some of those procedures?
Okay, yes.
In
In the first place, the first thing is for you to give the parties, giving information to the registrar of marriage, saying that we are interested in coming together as husband and wife. Now, what the registrar of marriage does is at that point, he publishes it right in front of his office, and then local government
in a conspicuous place where people
yes,
can.
in his outer office.
Okay.
In his outer office, because usually their offices are stationed at the registry of the local government in the place of FCT, the area council. So they publicize it at the outdoor office. Now, also in the secretariat of the local government where the marriage is supposed to be conducted. Now, at the expiration of, after that period, the next thing is that publication would have to last for not less than 21 days. Not less than 21 days. At the expiration of that time, the registrar of marriage issues a certificate. Now, that certificate he issued is simply for the purpose of stating that no objection came. Okay? No objection was witnessed after the publication. At the end of that, within a space of 3 months, the parties are expected to solemnize the marriage. They will solemnize at the registry, or they can go and do the necessary customary rites. And if you want to go to the church or the registered place of worship in the place of Islam, it must be a registered and recognized place of worship. Now you do that, and then if you solemnize, of course, at the registry, they will be giving you a certificate, which is now the certificate of marriage. The very first one is certificate to show that there was no objection. Now, the second one, after the solemnization, is the one showing that you have been married. Okay? So when that is done, the parties, of course, have become husband and wife.
The law also recognizes that of church marriage, because you said after that publicity that they are allowed to go to solemnize either in the church or in the mosque, or so it's also in tandem with the law.
Yes, in as much as it's a registered place of worship.
Exactly.
But of course, the certificate the church will be giving you cannot take precedent over the certificate the statutory or the registry would be giving you.
Okay.
More so, it's not every place that is actually a licensed place of worship. That is why they were very specific. If you must go to solemnize in a church or in a mosque or wherever you choose to, it must be a licensed place of worship.
So you don't just open one thing and say it's a church and you start wedding people.
It won't fly.
Okay.
It won't fly. So those are the procedures involved.
Okay, because you've mentioned a little bit of religion in terms of church or mosque. I discovered that when somebody is married in the church, after going through those processes of registry and the couple decide to go to church, they usually give them 2 certificates. Of course, it's 3. One the church will keep, one they will keep the couple, one they will take to the... Why are they taking that one to the registry?
Yes, remember I said... okay, probably I didn't bring it up when I was talking about registration of marriage by the Act, the statutory marriage registration under the Act. So one of the things, at the time you're done, it's actually a requirement when you are done solemnizing. In fact, that's actually the way they can actually know that you have done this within a space of 3 months. After the certificate has been issued or you've done the needful there. Because if you have not, and 3 months expires, everything you have done previously at the registry becomes invalidated. It's invalid. You have to go
all over again.
Thank you. So that's why they will have to take it there.
Okay.
That's actually the reason, so that they can register it there. The registrar of marriages have a file where he or she put in these informations in case of tomorrow.
And of course, by virtue of that, that church certificate becomes valid and is recognized because a part of it has been submitted to you.
Very correct. You're very correct.
Okay, thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Now we talk about, oftentimes we hear void marriage and voidable marriage. Somebody that is not a lawyer, layman, or our viewers out there may not understand. Please, in a clear understanding, what does it mean? Void marriage and voidable marriages. They look alike, but I think they are not the same.
Yeah, they're not the same. A void marriage is, okay, I'll just have to break it down in such a way that everybody
use
will
whatever,
understand.
whether it's knife or axe, start breaking so that
a void marriage, simply put, is a marriage that should never even have existed at all.
That's
in fact,
void.
As far as the law is concerned, there was no marriage.
Example.
When the parties are within the prohibited degree of consanguinity or affinity, that is to say,
please,
if,
what do you mean by consanguinity?
Yes. Okay, I will break it down.
Drama,
yes, sir. If the parties, for instance, a girl marrying her father, or a mother marrying her son or her stepson, or an
this
uncle
is becoming interesting.
Yes.
We are going to continue on this after we come back from break.
Okay.
Please, viewers, do join us again.
Okay.
Hi, you are welcome to the speaker on ACNN television reaching from Abuja. My name is Anozechi Nomso. One of the sweetest things that can happen to a person is marriage. This is because when a child is born, it's expected of that child to grow, and when he or she grows into maturity, the society expects him or her to get married. It would therefore be a remiss on Mr. Speaker not to define marriage. Marriage is a legal union of a man and a woman as husband and wife. Lord Penzance, in the old celebrated case of Hyde against Hyde, opined that marriage is the legal union of a man and a woman to become husband and wife to the exclusion of all others. In all these definitions and any other definition of marriage, only one fact could be established, and that fact is that marriage is a very beautiful and wonderful institution. As citizens of Nigeria, it is expected of us to marry Nigeria by contributing our quota in nation building, innovation, creativity, and intellectual manpower. But with the current situation of things in Nigeria, one wonders whether what is going on in Nigeria is marriage or mirage. It is quite unfortunate that in Nigeria today, both the leaders and the less seem not to get it right. Why must we live in a nation today where the political leaders treat their fellow citizens with impunity and reckless abandon? Why must we operate in a country where religious sentiments and ethnic extractions is the game of the moment? It is no longer news that most of the juicy political positions and appointments are given to a particular ethnicity. Nigeria has become a country where interpretation of laws to the rich and influential is different from that of the poor. When a politician steals billions of naira and dollars meant for the masses, we call it misappropriation or embezzlement of public funds. That is most laughable. But when a poor man takes a goat of his neighbor, he's sentenced and jailed for theft. I think it is high time we began to give naira and goat equal value, because a thief is a thief. Whether you steal naira with your pen and office you occupy, or you steal a goat of your neighbor, it is still the same, because the presence and affinity of brotherhood exists between them. In a situation where a citizen supports everything the government does, no matter how sordid and morbid they are, only to speak against the government because you are now in opposition is a typical example of mirage and not marriage. When a politician converts a constituency allowance or security votes meant for his people and diverts it to his private bank account, is mirage, not marriage. When a governor of a state slashes the salaries of the civil servants by more than 50% and takes the larger portion, such governor is a governor of the state of mirage. It is not a marriage that those in government does everything possible to clamp down on citizens in order to continue their ill type of governance. Rather, such acts is a twin brother of mirage. The question I'm asking in all this is, where is one Nigeria that our forefathers fought for and handed over to us? Where is that Nigeria where Igbo, Hausa, and Yoruba are one? I'm still looking for that Nigeria where peace and justice once reigned. I'm still searching for that Nigeria where selflessness, integrity, and self-sacrifice will be the hallmark of governance. When the army initially denied responsibility of the shooting of innocent protesters, only to later admit that it was a rubber bullet, it's an original copy of mirage. When a particular group of people encourages a politician to be stealing and looting on an industrial scale without conscience, only to acknowledge that such political thief is their own thief, is a replica of a political mirage. When the government use grammar to grammatize their wicked actions, policies, and decisions, is an example of a monumental mirage. We need a Nigeria where all will be accommodated as one. We need a Nigeria where provisions of the law must be carried out to the letter. We need a Nigeria where the political leaders will lead with love and conscience. We need a Nigeria where some group of persons will not be benefiting from violence. We need a Nigeria where all the guns will be silent because there is an absolute peace in the land. I therefore speak that until we understand that there is no other country we can call our own except Nigeria, until we understand that if Nigeria is destroyed, there is no hiding place for anybody, until we understand that the task of building Nigeria is a collective effort, until we understand that Nigeria is a beautiful and delicate bride, which all of us should marry with a high sense of sincerity and fidelity, we shall continue to have mirage of democracy instead of marriage of democracy. My name is Anozie Chinomso. I just want to speak. Hi viewers, thank you for staying tuned. We are still here with Barrister Mrs. Faith Dikocha. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
And before we went on break, you are trying to explain void and voidable marriages. And you said that void marriage is the one that under law, it shouldn't, in fact, there's nothing like marriage existing. And you are trying to give illustration of father and mother. Please continue, take it off from there.
Yes, sir. I said a void marriage, in the face of it, is an unlawful thing. Of course, you know the law cannot permit illegality. It's totally illegal for parties to have said they have a marriage under a platform of the marriage being void. Okay, now if a father wakes up tomorrow and feels, my little daughter is now grown, is now a woman and is beautiful, I think I should marry her, and both of them, probably the girl also, you see the kind of things happening in our society these days, I'm in love with my father, and they decide to go get married. There is no marriage as far as the law is concerned.
That is void.
Totally void. Ab initio, from the beginning, even before it began, it was wrong. There's no marriage.
Okay, that's your void.
Yes, totally bad. Now, voidable marriages are actually legal, and should I use the word legal?
There's marriage existing in the first instance.
Yes, there's an existence of a marriage, and it remains so until it is annulled by a court of law.
Okay.
Until it is annulled. Example of something that can lead to a voidable marriage is, say for instance, one of the parties have totally refused to consummate the marriage after.
Is it a condition?
Yes, it's actually, the court can declare the marriage a nullity if either of both parties have refused to consummate.
It means consummation is a necessity in marriage.
Very, very important. However,
yes,
the court would have to look into the fact as to decipher what would lead or what would have led to this party saying, I don't want to consummate. That is for practice, okay? Now, another thing that can actually cause a marriage to be voidable is, let's say, either of the parties was fraudulently coerced. Fraud.
How do you mean?
If you coerce, remember consent, just like we're talking about marriage, the parties must agree to marry. If at the time of getting married, one of the parties does not really understand the nature of what he or she is going into, maybe he or she is being deceived, and by that deception goes in, and in the process discover, what am I doing here? And the court actually sees that, of course, at the point of that contract of marriage, yes, it was okay, it was legal, it was done good and fine, but in the process, this comes to play, the court can declare that marriage a nullity if all facts point to the fact that there was absence of consent or there was fraud. And then if either of both parties were married to some other person before the marriage. You know, some people can marry a woman in Abuja, then go to
Abia State, go to Kano. So that also can also annul a marriage.
Very well. The court can annul it. The court can declare the marriage a nullity.
But is that not a polygamous marriage? It doesn't mean that polygamous marriage is wrong?
No, polygamy is actually permitted under the platform of custom. If you are marrying, for instance, under the Islamic law, remember in Islam, a man is permitted to marry up to four wives. Now, if you're marrying under the customary law from the eastern part of Nigeria, a man can marry more than one wife. Under the custom.
But they must know each other. They must be called, the first wife or second wife must know.
Of course, because they are married under the custom. Their custom permits it. They allow them, permits it rather, allow them to do so. Now, but if it is under the act, of course, it has to be one man, one wife.
Oh, the act specifically provide one man, one wife.
That is why there is an offense of bigamy now. If one is already married to somebody and then decides to marry another, who are you deceiving? The law does not permit that. The court must first of all dissolve the marriage. Then we must go before a court of law. If you're done, the court will have to give you dissolution of marriage after they have discovered that everything points to the every stuff that needs to be proven. If for a marriage to break down irretrievably must have been proven, the court can dissolve it. Now on that platform you can go ahead and marry another woman you choose to, any other man you choose to. But during the subsistence of that marriage, you decide to contract another marriage. It's actually voidable.
Okay, all right.
Yes, sir.
So now in the course of your explanation, you talked about coercing. In a situation where a father or a mother or both parents say, my daughter, you must marry that man, whether I like it or not. He has spent a lot in your head. And that lady or the young girl doesn't love this man and there is no consent. What happens in that circumstance? Will the marriage stand?
My learned friend, marriage as it is, there must be consent of both parties. It's actually a condition sine qua non. It is something, you can't place something on nothing.
And expect it to stand.
You cannot stand. The law does not permit that. Now, when two persons are involved, they are old enough to get married. And they want to get married. Their consent, I want to marry you. I want to marry you. We'll get married. That's fine. I want to marry you. I don't want to marry. And you said you must marry me and you will get married. This is a different platform. That one cannot stand. We don't want to marry each other, or one person wants, the other person doesn't want. The parents compel. It cannot also stand. There must be consent.
So is that void or voidable marriage?
It is voidable. It is voidable. Maybe the parties are old enough. Remember, if it's in the aspect of customary marriage, let me take it this way so that we don't get it all
confused.
Yes. If it's in the aspect of customary marriage, of course, you know, there is even not a way that consent of both parties would not come to play, of the parents rather, will not come to play, because bride price has to be paid. You can't pay the bride price to the woman. You must give it to the family. either a parent or a guardian or kinsman. There must be somebody receiving, meaning that somebody must have been giving the consent in the customary, under the customary platform. Now, but if it's in the legal aspect of marriage, the statutory marriage, the law only specifies that there must be 2 witnesses at the time of solemnization of the matrimony. There has to be 2 witnesses saying, we know these people are get 2 is okay, and then the officiant, that's whoever is officiating the marriage, which is at the registry there. So consent is a very important requirement for marriage to stand. If either of both parties' consent is not there, or the parents' consent, if the child is a minor, has to be there. Of course, most of the time, even under the legal marriage, they have to be up to age of majority anyways. It's usually in the customary platform that you can be talking about underage marriages, and there's nothing you can do about it. They are in the north, 13-year-old, 12-year-old, they are getting married, even though the Constitution or the Child Rights Act, rather, of 2003 specified the child must be up to 18 years. But different customs have their different... So I'm sure there is little or nothing we can do about that, at least for now, until we have a more sane society. So in a nutshell, consent is very important.
The parties.
The parties. Very, very important. You can't do away with it.
Okay, having established that the consent of both parties is very, if I quote, I use your word, is a conditio sine qua non, is something that you cannot do without. What about a situation where either of the parents say, Obi, never you try to marry that girl, else I disown you. And Obi and the Ada, Obi and the Adiza went ahead and married. That marriage, is illegitimate even without the consent of the parents or either of the parents?
Are you talking about marriage under the Act or custom?
Under the Act. Explain it under the Act and custom.
Under the Act,
yes.
I said earlier, what the law requires is, law requires 2 witnesses. 2 witnesses. The law didn't say the father of the girl or the mother of the boy.
So I can call my friends and the witness?
2 witnesses.
Yes. Under
they
the
are
Act.
all grown.
That's under the Act.
Under the, they are adults. They are not babies. So whether the parents give their consent or not, at some point I feel it's immaterial. Now, but under the custom, I said something earlier. I said the bride price has to be paid to someone. The bride, and if, as long as that bride price have not been collected, it cannot be said, it cannot even be heard that you are married under the custom of your people. Bride price is a very important requirement. Now, who collects bride price? Obviously not the girl getting married.
Definitely.
Obviously and of course not the man getting married to the girl. He won't collect the bride price by himself.
You can't appropriate and reprobate at the same time.
So I think that answers your question.
That's it. Now, in as much as divorce is a different thing altogether, but it's for someone in ambit of this.
Yeah, very
oftentimes we hear they say the court is granting degree nisi and degree absolute. What does that mean in marriage? They say nisi or nisi or whatever. Please, what does it mean?
When the decree has been made absolute, it means both of you can go your separate ways. Okay? Both of you are to go. That's say this marriage has broken down irretrievably. So the parties are now free to marry. They are now free to do whatever they have to do. But during the pendency of that, before the decree has been made absolute, usually that's what the court do. The court usually grant what we call judicial separation. That usually lasts for a period of 3 months, 6 months. I'm not very...
depending on...
So within this period of time, you're not permitted to marry. You're not permitted to... You can actually be living differently. You can actually stay in the same house, whatever you choose to do with yourself. But why the court give that room is to enable the parties reconcile if need be. Now, if at the end of this period, the parties still did not reconcile, then the court can go ahead and make the decree absolute.
So within that separation, it's called decree nisi.
Yes.
That's what I want to understand.
Yeah, okay, very well. So that's it, sir.
Thank you very much. And maybe when we are treating about divorce, you're gonna come there also to
it's actually a very delicate and it's
we just want to appreciate
educating your viewers on. Very important.
Thank you very much, Barrister Faith. You are here again. Sir. Just like I keep on saying, the studio have taken judicial or studio notice of you.
Okay.
Thank you very much. When next we call you, I pray that you also oblige us.
I will be here.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you. Viewers, we have seen it out there that consent of the parties must be necessary in any legal marriage. According to Lord Penzance in the celebrated case of Hyde against Hyde, marriage is the legal union of man and woman to become husband and wife, to the exclusion of all others. Similarly, the Bible justified marriage in Genesis chapter 2 verse 24 when it states that, and I quote, "Therefore a man shall leave his father and mother and be joined to his wife, and they shall become one flesh." Unquote. Do not be deceived when anyone tell you that the coming together of same-sex is marriage. Such is fallacious, heretic, unlawful and unfounded, especially as at moment in our laws. It is therefore advised that we all should be careful when it comes to marriage. For marriage is meant for it to be enjoyed and not to be endured. This is where we draw the curtain on today's episode of the program. Until we come your way again, same time, same station. This is Anozechinom, so urging you to justify your marriage and relationships, and bye for now.